Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel, Life with Lisette. And in today's video, I do want to share a little bit of a testimony. I want to share with all of you some really good news that happened to me last week and just give you an update on life. In November, I posted a video about me losing my job at the age of 48. I got laid off. My position was outsourced. I will link that video below if you want to watch it. But in that video, I shared with you my downward spiral of my life after I got laid off. And the reality is, while I can come on here and I can show you my growth on YouTube and I'm smiling and I love my pixie cut, I also am very cognizant of the job and the work that I put into myself to get here today. This did not happen overnight. I have been working on myself for the last 6 years. This November will be 7 years that I have been working on myself. And by working on myself, I'm talking about going to therapy. I'm talking about journaling, keeping a gratitude journaling, taking care of my body from the inside out, drinking my water, taking, really good supplements, using great skincare to nourish and protect and conserve my body. I exercise, I lift weights. As a postmenopausal woman, it's more important than ever for me to strength train and build my core. I don't want to fall and have a hip injury and not be able to recover, right? All these things. And I have been taking care of myself incrementally since November of 2019. I slowly started to do things one at a time. And so part of my testimony here today is because I feel as though my life is almost coming full circle in a weird way, I guess. But it is. I feel like it's coming full circle. And I've said this from the beginning that I want my channel to be a different channel where we talk about all things. And I have found that being vulnerable and expressing vulnerability is a flex. It is a superpower. I didn't know that I had it in me to be this vulnerable, but this is what I know for sure. That when you are vulnerable and you share your story, it resonates with people because I know that I am not the only one that went through that and that will go through that. There are so many people out here in this world that are suffering, that are in pain, that are depressed. I was that person, and I'm speaking from experience. And when we live in a world where things are so filtered, everything has a filter, that we lose sight of reality. We lose sight of that there are people behind those filters, and there's a story behind that filter. I don't use filters on my channel. I don't know how to use them. But the reality is, like, we just need to bring our humanity back. We need to bring back a sense of community and a sense of that I'm not the only one going through this, and I know that there are many others. So in that video in November, I shared that I had lost my job. I also shared that I went down a very dark rabbit hole of depression, and I realized that I had become an alcoholic. I was so depressed that I did not know how to get myself out of it. And there were moments in my depression and drinking alcohol that my family didn't even know I was drinking during the day sometimes. Most of the times they didn't know that I was drinking during the day. But it was such a dark time. And all I could think about the minute I woke up was, when is it going to be nighttime so I can go to sleep? Like, when is this day going to end? Because I don't want to do it. I don't want to go through this day. And I used alcohol and sleep to numb all of that, all of it. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be sad. I didn't want to cry every day. I was so sick and tired of all of it. So sick and tired of feeling the glass half empty day in and day out. And now that I can look back on that day and just be very reflective of that, that period of my life, not one day in that whole entire process did I ever, was I ever grateful for just being alive. Not one time did I express a sense of positivity that I had gotten a severance package and that we were financially okay. Nope. Mm-mm. I was so deep in my depression and so deep rooted in my anger. I had so much anger. That combined with sadness and frustration and confusion all at the same time, that I didn't even think about being grateful. I didn't even think about all the good things that were happening in my life because all I was thinking was what happened to me. And because I identified with my job and I made it my entire world, God shook me. Yes, He did. You can believe in whatever you want to believe in, whatever higher power, higher source. I believe in God. And He shook me to my core. And what I know for sure today, what I know without a doubt, is that He single-handedly removed me from that situation, removed me from those people, removed me from that environment so that I could live, so that I could be happy, so that I could appreciate all of the wonderful things that He was giving to me. And again, believe in whatever higher power you want to believe in. I believe in God, and so that's my source. And it didn't happen overnight, right? Because I still had to go through that pain. I still had to learn so much. And I needed to be a good student of that teaching. But it did not happen quickly. It happened over several months. And the one moment for me that I shared in that other video is I was home alone, and that day was a very dark, dark, dark day for me. It was, I can get emotional thinking about it still, but it was a very dark moment for me. And I was in my kitchen, I was making my coffee, I was by myself. And I remember saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm done, I'm tired. And in that moment, I turned on, because I've been listening to YouTube videos for many, many years. And I turned on YouTube, and on YouTube came Les Brown. And he said the quote, if you're going to fall on your back. Because if you can, what is it? If you can look up, you can get up. But as he was talking, he wasn't at that part yet in his speech, in his motivational speech. And I remember sitting on my kitchen floor in a corner, literally in fetal position, screaming at the top of my lungs, asking God to help me, asking Him to not let me feel what I was feeling, and to not allow me to, for lack of a better term, follow through with what I was thinking. And I begged Him to help me. I begged Him to save me, because that moment was so painful. And as soon as it got quiet, as soon as I stopped screaming, which felt like forever, but as soon as I stopped screaming, there comes Les Brown over my phone. And he said that quote. And that moment, at that very moment, and I'm not being woo woo in any way, but that very moment, I felt something change. I felt this flicker. I felt the switch turn on in me. And I got up. I made my coffee. I made my breakfast. I immediately came right to this room and I'm sorry, it wasn't this room. I was in the other bedroom at the time. I went into that bedroom and I sat down and I just started writing. I just started writing and cried and screamed and wrote, cried and screamed and wrote. And I got everything off my chest. I got everything out of my head. And that was the start. That was the start of my change. So that was in October of 2019. So it's almost a year later. Because remember, they told me in September of 2018 that I was losing my job. So, but I didn't lose my job until December of that year of 2018. So now it's October 2019. And I am working at a place that I did not want to work at. Again, for the details, go to that video. But I did not let that stop me. I said, okay, I need to take control of my life. I need to start being grateful for everything. And I started a gratitude journal. I started to eat healthier. I started to feel better. I started to drink more water. I stopped drinking alcohol. My last sip of alcohol was on November 9th, 2019, because I made a promise to my family that I was going to start taking care of myself. That's when I started my health and fitness journey. I quit alcohol cold turkey. I quit smoking cigars cold turkey. And I know that that's not for everyone, but I can only speak for me in my case. I started working out and I told myself, if I can get through these 21 days, then I know that I'm making progress. I know that I'm doing better. And I got through those 21 days, 21 consecutive days of workouts. And I'm gonna tell you, I could not stop. I wanted to go more. I wanted to do more. And I haven't stopped. I have not stopped working out since November 10th of 2019. It has been such a transformational thing for me, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And I say all that to share with you that in order for something to change, something has to change, right? We can't keep doing the same things over and over and over again, thinking the same things over and over again, being around the same people over and over again, and expect for something to change. Change requires a lot of internal work. People, I see it all the time. People go to conferences and workshops and conventions and retreats, and they read books and they listen to podcasts and they do all these things, right? They're addicted to knowledge and addicted to learning. But the secret is the application, right? You can take all that information in, but it's not going to start actually making a difference in your life until you apply what you've learned, until you apply all those little learnings and teachings. That is when change starts to happen. And it starts with this up here. The minute I heard Les Brown say those words, like I said, there was a switch that turned on. And I immediately knew that I needed to start being grateful, because I had so many negative thoughts on a daily basis that I was tired of thinking so negative. I was so fed up with myself. And I said, okay, I need to start being grateful. And I started a gratitude journal. It was nothing fancy. It was just a simple notebook. And I started with promising myself to write 3 things that I was grateful for. And as long as I could write 3 things, I was good. But let me tell you what happens when you keep a gratitude journal, for those that have never kept one. And for me, in my case, because I was so severely depressed, it helped me to actually focus on something else besides feeling sorry for myself. It made me more aware of my day. I found myself looking, like just visibly and physically looking for things that I could write in my gratitude journal at night. And that, I know it sounds a little bit weird, or maybe it sounds unbelievable, but I encourage you to practice that. I encourage you to try it. If you are in a position where you feel stuck and you feel depressed and you feel down, and like me, you're just thinking negative all day, every day, I encourage you to start keeping a gratitude journal. That's a video for another day. But I focused on, what can I be grateful for today? And every single day, that list grew. There were days where I would put 15 things. There were days where I would put 20 things. And then there were days where I would just put one, because nothing is perfect, right? Healing, recovery, it's not linear. It's not. You're going to have your good days and you're going to have your bad days. But the goal is not to stay in those bad days. And then when you have the really good days, don't convince yourself that something bad is going to happen, because you really shouldn't be that happy. It's a mindset shift, right? You change your mind, you change your life. You change your health, you change your life. But change is required. And so I stayed at that other job. And then the pandemic hit and we were all working from home. And in 2021, I had a meeting with my boss. And I go into all these details, but that was too a pivotal moment. But the beauty of it was, I was no longer in that headspace of feeling forced to be there, feeling forced to do anything. At that point, I took control. I took control of my life. I took control of my thoughts, and I took control of my actions. And I applied for a job at my previous employer that had laid me off. I went through the interviews and I was hired, and the rest is history because I'm still there. But here's where the beauty of how I feel things have come full circle, and how something so dark and something so negative actually turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Because had I not gone through that process of losing my job, losing myself, I would have never found this new version of me. I would have never, ever, ever been able to do and to challenge myself to do the work that I've done on myself, because I took even myself for granted. I worked on my faith. I worked on my relationship with God through that time. I worked on my relationship with myself. I had to ask my husband for forgiveness. I had to ask my daughters for forgiveness. I had to do so much introspective work. Here's the beauty though. I was so stripped down. I was so vulnerable. I was so open to anything that would help me that I did not feel shame. I did not feel shame in asking for help. I did not feel shame in admitting that I was an alcoholic. I did not feel shame in accepting and admitting that I was depressed. Because when you are that low and you are feeling the way you're feeling, and for those that have been there, trust me, I know. And I need to put out this quick disclaimer. If you find yourself having negative thoughts and thoughts that aren't going to serve you, I am going to encourage you to reach out for some help. Get the help that you need, get the support that you need, either through family, your church, community, or even a hotline. I encourage you to seek help. because mental health is real. And we need to be respectful of that. And not everyone's journey is the same. This, I'm speaking from my perspective and my journey, my personal journey. But it is not lost on me that mental health is serious. I know because I've been there. So if you find yourself in a really mental hard place, please, please get the help that you need. Okay. And so I had to go through that. I had to go through that process of, you know, peeling that onion all the way back. And it was ugly, it was stinky, it was bad. And I let myself stay in that cocoon because I needed to be dark, in that dark space where it was lonely and sad and quiet and scary. That was my journey. That was the journey that God wanted to put me on. And I leaned into Him. I leaned into my family. I leaned into my resources, and I did the work. Because just last week, for the first time in my entire career, I've been working since the age of 14. Someone went and battled for me behind the scenes, and I was surprised with a promotion last week. And I say that because there has never been a job where I haven't had to fight and fight hard to get recognized and to be promoted. And here came this job that God had so beautifully orchestrated to happen, and the way that it happened for me to land this role. And here I am 3 years later with a promotion. And I feel so grateful, so blessed to have been given this opportunity. But more importantly, to be able to come here and to share my story with all of you, the story of hope, the story of what could be, the story of if you just work on yourself, there is something so much bigger for you. And so if you find yourself in a situation like I was in, where you just got laid off, I know what you're feeling. I know the pain. I know the confusion and the anger and the fear of the unknown. I know this. I want my story to be a source of inspiration for you, of what can be, of what is the possibility, of what can happen. Take this as a lesson. Use this as a stepping stone, right? Because what I know for sure today is that God removed me from that situation because He had so much beauty and bigger things in store for me. And so I ask that you ask yourself, what is the lesson to be learned here? What do I need to do to change? What was it about that job that didn't serve me? What am I looking for? Because in my reconnection and me working on my relationship with God, that was one of my prayers. When I wrote in my gratitude journal, when I wrote in my journal about what the life was that I wanted, and I wrote it in the tense as if it already happened, right? I manifested, I prayed my future, and I am living it today. I prayed for a team and a leader that believed in us, right? That didn't micromanage, like, that built us up. I wanted that connection with my team members. I wanted that trust with the team members, right? These are the little things that I was praying for because I didn't have that before. And so here I am, 6 years later, almost 7 years later, back at the company, and now I have a promotion. My husband and my daughters were ecstatic. They were so happy for me. Um, and listen, I know that not everyone has that support system. It is not lost on me. And while I would love to save everyone and help everyone, I know that I can't. But I can only come to you from my own personal point of reference. I can only share examples with you that I've gone through. And so while all of our situations and our circumstances are different, the emotions, the set of emotions are still the same. And even though I had my family support, I was still dealing with all of that myself. I had to do the internal healing myself because as much as they wanted to help me, it's no different than someone going to workshops, going to retreats and getting all that information and still not applying it. My family were those workshops. My family were those retreats. They were telling me information and constantly feeding positivity into me, but I was not ready to receive it. I was not ready to receive it to then apply it. I had to get there myself. And just as God would have it, it all started with me being home alone and going through that moment in my kitchen that will forever play such a pivotal moment in my life, one that I will never forget. So that is my story. That is what I wanted to share with you today, how things happen full circle, and they do happen for the better. They do. I want you to trust the process. I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to start keeping a gratitude journal. If you're feeling negative, down, sad, angry, frustrated, confused, write that down. Write it down. Don't sit with that on your heart. Don't sit with that on your mind. Write it down. Write down how you see your life, but write it as if it has already happened. If you guys want more help on that, I can do a video on that as well. But I wanted to share my latest update. I wanted to be on here and come to you and talk to you about how going through such a hard, dark, lonely time in my life, how that served me and brought me here today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with me this long. I appreciate you. And that is all. Until the next one, adios.